you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. This is my hometown. And I was here last night, and those of you that weren't here missed a great time. The four-star general made an outstanding talk. He talked about patriotism and how proud we should be of our men and women in uniform in Afghanistan and Iraq. And it made me want to go out and join the Army after he spoke. But they told me I was too old. I'll soon be 80 years old. And I think I've missed one in 32 years, George. We started out in Hamlet years ago when George was coach and athletic director there. And it's been a great thing. This is the greatest clinic on the face of the earth. And I say that because I know about clinics. I've done clinics almost all over the world. I've done clinics in Canada, in North Carolina, in Dominican Republic, Cuba, Venezuela, Hawaii, Japan, and the Philippines. And I can tell you that this staff that he's assembled here is the greatest, without a doubt. The experience they have, and if you youngsters will pay attention, given all these instructors who come, some from great distances, you'll leave here not only a better baseball player, but a better person. And I just want to tell you that we're so fortunate to have this clinic in Goldsboro, and I know firsthand because I'm so close to George. He lives here now, and we see each other 3 to 4 times a week. The time and effort and resources that he puts into getting this clinic together. I want to emphasize, too, about the relationship between fathers and sons and coaches and players and even mothers. I think there's some mothers here, certainly some ladies, some girls. It's so important. Let me tell you a story about, I spoke at the Columbia University in New York recently to a group of educators. And I told this story about a little guy who wanted some time with his dad. It was a Saturday morning. He was 12 years old. And he said, "Dad, would you go out and play catch with me?" And the dad said, "Son, I can't. I'm too busy. I'm going out in the garage and cleaning my golf club, and I'm going to play golf. I just don't have time." He said, "Dad, can I ask you a question?" He said, "Sure. What is it?" He said, "How much do you make an hour?" And the dad said, "Well, son, you really don't need to know, but I don't mind telling you, I make $50 an hour." And he said, "Well, would you lend me $10, Dad?" He said, "What do you want $10 for?" He said, "Well, I've worked this summer mowing lawns and running errands for our neighbors, and I've made $40 all summer." He said, "If you lend me $10, I'll have $50, and I can buy an hour of your time." Now, isn't that something? He was willing to give up all the money he had earned that summer just to spend an hour with his dad, to buy an hour of his time. And sometimes I think we pretend that we're busier than we really are, that we pass up times, and I could spend an hour telling you about people who have touched my life right here in this city of Goldsboro. I grew up here. I went through this system, Goldsboro High School. When I was at your age right now, I had no idea that I'd be able to do the things that I've done. If you've got dreams, dream them. Set your goals high and do all you can to reach them. I had no idea when I was your age that I'd be able to go to the University of North Carolina and play baseball and basketball, then go on to be with the Brooklyn Dodgers in the days of Jackie Robinson and Pee Wee Reese and Duke Snider, and then to be involved, as George said, in so many World Series. I've got 6 World Series rings. When I was your age, young folks, I had no idea. I want you to think big, dream big, and do all you can. Sacrifice. And another thing that I learned early on, just about your age, Pat Crawford was in charge of the scheduling of the city Goldsboro schools for athletic contests. And he took me under his wing and he said, "Remember one thing as you grow older and continue in sport, that practicing is so important." He said, "You've heard it, that practice makes perfect." But he said, "I want to go a step further." He said, "Perfect practice makes perfect." He said, "You will tend to play in the game like you practice." And you know I've carried that with me all these years. When I'm instructing major league players now, if somebody goofs off in practice, I excuse them. They do extra laps because you have to really concentrate. I've been in some of Dean Smith's practices. And when he saw a player goofing off in practice, he blew that whistle loud enough we could hear it here in Goldsboro. And that guy sat down. Practicing properly is so important. Put everything you've got into it because it will help you. And as I said, we tend to be busier than we really are sometimes. We don't have time to stop and spend a little time with someone who just wants to have someone listen to him. This young man graduated from college. He was a lawyer, came home, put a shingle up outside of his door, and waited for people to come, and nobody came. He was getting discouraged, and finally he saw a gentleman coming down the walkway right toward his office. And the minute he opened the door, he picked up the phone, started saying, "I'm so sorry, I've been so busy, I haven't been able to get back to you. Please forgive me, in a couple of days I'll get back to you." Hung the phone up and told the young man to sit down, and he sat down and punched the phone again and went through the same routine again about how busy he'd been. And he said, he hung up and he said, "I'm sorry to keep you waiting." And the young man said, "That's okay." He said, "I'm just from the phone company. I came to connect your phone." And you know, we pretend we're busier sometimes than we really are. Don't ever be too busy to stop and help someone. Right here in this city of Goldsboro. But when I was a junior in high school, I was having some trouble in a couple of subjects. And Janie Ipop, who was my math teacher, and that was my best subject in high school because I'm sure it was because of Janie Ipop. She was a great lady. She was a saint. She was a sports fan, and when we'd win, she'd congratulate us. When we'd lose, she'd encourage us. And one day she said to me, "Clyde, stay after school. I need to talk to you." And I did. And she said, "I know you're having trouble in a couple of your subjects. If you'd like, if you'll come by every Monday and Wednesday, I'll tutor you." Now, she chose Monday and Wednesday because she knew we played on Tuesdays and Fridays. She was a smart lady. I did, and maybe 6 or 7 weeks she tutored me. I went on to be a decent student in Goldsboro High School, well enough to get into the University of North Carolina. Janie Ipop came along at a time in my life when I needed direction. And she took the time to give it to me. She turned my life around. And there's some Janie Ipops out here tonight, today, I'm sure. I went on to the University of North Carolina. I was the only one of 7 children that went to college. We didn't have a lot of money. Didn't even have a suitcase. I put my stuff in a little duffel bag and hitchhiked up to Chapel Hill. The first night I was there at Steele Dormitory, the bunk beds were not ready in the basement, and I slept on a bench and got in the next day and went to work at 5:30 in the morning at Lenore Hall, feeding those pre-flight cadets. Had an afternoon baseball practice, fall practice, and an early evening basketball practice. Served back again that night to those cadets. And I was getting tired and discouraged. Don't we all get tired and discouraged at times? And I was going to quit and go home. I was going to give up, which is not a good thing to do. So I put my stuff in that little duffel bag on a Saturday morning and went down to where we used to bum rides. In those days, you could bum rides without fear of anybody molesting you or kidnapping you or killing you. People were happy to give college kids a ride. In front of Woolen Gym, where I played basketball when I was at Chapel Hill, it's where we stood to bum rides, and I stood. First 6 or 7 cars passed me up, and I was getting discouraged. Finally, a car came up and stopped at the curb, and I bent down and looked in there, and it was my freshman basketball coach, Coach Al Mathis. And he said, "Son, where are you going?" I said, "I'm going home, Coach." He said, "Don't you know that we have a rule you can't go home for 6 weeks?" I said, "Yes, sir, but I'm not coming back. I'm quitting." He said, "Get in your car and let's take a ride." I threw a little bag in the back. I can still remember the streets in Chapel Hill where we rode around. He taught me how to quit. Took me back to Steele Dormitory. 2 weeks later, I got some financial help. I could stop my jobs and be a normal student at Carolina. I went on to play baseball and basketball. Al Mathis came along at a time in my life, just like Janie Ipop. When I needed direction, he gave it to me. He was on his way to play golf that morning. He gave up his golf game to help me. And if Al Mathis, what if one of those first cars had come along and picked me up? I would have come back to Goldsboro. My parents were not educated. They would have welcomed me home like the prodigal son was welcome home. They wouldn't have taught me into going back to Carolina. I wouldn't have met my wife, Norma, and had 3 beautiful daughters, 8 grandchildren, and 3 wonderful sons-in-law. I wouldn't have been able to go almost around the world and meet 6 presidents. I wouldn't have been able to be involved in all those World Series. Al Mathis came along at a time in my life when he turned it around. I would not be here today if it wasn't for Janie Ipop and Al Mathis. And you know, for 50 years, that was the end of that story. One night, Norma and I were watching Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, and the phone rang, and I answered it. He said, "Is this Clyde King?" I said, "Yes, this is he." He said, "This is Coach Al Mathis." I said, "Good, Coach, where are you?" He said, "I'm in Tampa, Florida." About that time, his wife Ann came on the phone, and she said, "Mr. King, Al has had a rough time. He says he's had 4 bypasses. He sits in his chair. He won't take his medicine. He doesn't do his exercise. He's not eating right until 2 weeks ago. I had been on Bill Friday's North Carolina People a couple of times, and I told that story that I just told you about. Excuse me, about Al Mathis, and one of his nephews was a cameraman on that show. He took that video, sent it to his Uncle Al in Tampa, and she said he looked at it 3 times and it's changed his life. He said, when you told him that video about how he had helped you and turned your life around, he said, you have turned his around. He said, he's up now, he's eating properly, taking his medicine, and he's a different person. She said, you've saved his life. And that something 50 years later, I could do something for him that he did for me so many years ago. And sometimes don't we pretend to be something that we're really not? But we have to be careful about that. I know I'm guilty of that sometimes too. These 2 brothers were very close. They had a great business. They were millionaires, multi-millionaires. And one of them died. And the other brother went to the priest that was going to do the funeral. He said, Father, if you'll just tell these folks tomorrow at this funeral, and they'll be standing room only. They were that well known. That my brother was a saint, I'll give you $1 million. And the priest said, well, I can't do that. He said, well, if you don't want $1 million, I'll give you anything you want. He said, I can afford it. And the priest started thinking for a minute, and he realized they were in a building program. He said, okay, I'll do that. So the next day when the funeral was coming, the priest got up and he said, I want you folks to know that the person in that casket right now is the most despicable person I've ever known. He's broken every law in the books. Murder, extortion, robbery, everything. He's broken every law in the book. But said, compared to his brother, he's a saint. Don't we sometimes pretend we're something we're really not? But I want to encourage you while you're here this weekend to really pay attention. These guys that come from all over the country, these coaches and instructors and teachers, they've given their time freely, and they've got the expertise you'll never see anywhere else except right here in George Whitfield's clinic. As I said, if you'll pay attention, you'll leave here a better baseball player and a better person than when you came. And that's so important. And it's important for you guys to realize that you have to work as a team. In sports, teamwork is probably far more important than the raw individual skills. Because when players learn to appreciate and compliment each other's talents, that's when they begin to play as a team. And when that happens, the unity in which they work together is a beautiful thing to watch. There's so much to be learned. When I was playing sports in Goldsboro High School and all the middle school, I played all the time. It kept me off the streets, corners, it kept me out of pool rooms, and it did a great thing for you. Sports, and I played all sports, except water polo probably. But I tell you, baseball is the greatest. I love the others. I love to watch football and basketball and soccer, but baseball is the greatest. Baseball is an individual game to the point that when you're standing out on that field, if a ball's hit to the shortstop and goes through his legs, there's nobody behind him to pick it up and throw him out at first base. But in football, if the lineman misses a tackle, the linebacker gets him forward. So you're out there all alone, and all your mistakes are recorded in the paper. It's probably the only sport that's true of. But when you go out on that field, don't ever, ever feel like, I don't care who you're playing, that you can't win the game. A good example, and there might be some scouts here that remember this. 3 years ago, Randy Johnson for the Colorado Rockies, an outstanding pitcher, wins 20 games every year, Cy Young Award winner, All-Star man. He was going to pitch against a rookie, I believe it was Minnesota. A rookie who had never pitched in the big leagues before was going to pitch against Randy Johnson. And of course everybody knew that Randy was going to win the game because of his experience and the inexperience of this young pitcher. Well, don't you know that young pitcher beat Randy Johnson when everybody thought he had no chance at all? Don't you ever go on that field thinking you can't win, because the best team does not always win. And in closing, I'll say that about our Yankee team this past year. I've been involved with the Yankees 29 years now, and I have never seen our team perform like we did in this past World Series. Can you imagine a Yankee infielder throwing to an unoccupied base? Enrique Wilson threw to third base and there was nobody there. It cost us 2 runs in the game. Can you imagine after reading the scouting report that the Marlins catcher had a great arm? He could throw you out at second base from his knees. That's how great an arm he had. And all our players would caution, don't get picked off. And then Nick Johnson gets picked off third when the score was tied after knowing that. That's concentration. It's a game of mind as well as body in baseball. And another thing, one of our best pitchers, a left-handed pitcher that was just left us, and I hate it so much, Petty. Not only was he a great pitcher, he was a Christian gentleman. Had a Bible study among the Yankee players. And there was a man on first and second, nobody out, and the ball bunted back to him pretty hard. He turned and threw the second, forced the guy, everybody said, great, got a man out. But if he had thrown to third base, he could have got that guy out by 4 steps. And Posada, our catcher, should have been out there and said, third base, third base, third base. But he didn't. Next hitter had a sacrifice fly and that run score. Put the Marlins ahead of us. There's so many little things. Fundamentals are the things that win games for you. And where do you learn fundamentals? You learn it in practice. You have to learn it in practice. George, don't let me go too long here. And I just want to say again, how fortunate I am to be still here. I'll be 80 years old my next birthday. I've been in baseball 60 years. This year will be 60 years. I've enjoyed every year of it. And I'm telling you now, whether you believe it or not, there's some major league players out here today. You might not think that now, but just remember. And in closing, I want to say that if what you did yesterday is still important today, then you haven't done much today. God bless you and good luck.